The U.S. has now admitted that it spent $230 million on that broken pier in Gaza. And by the way, they had to spend another $25 million after it broke. So it's about $250 million. It worked for 10 days. So about $25 million a day for how long they were able to actually use the pier because the water was too rough for this size, this kind of project. And now the Biden administration is looking at dismantling it next month. And the question is, did this do anything for the Gazans who actually needed assistance, who actually needed aid, or was anything that came through this pier taken immediately by Hamas? I'm not even sure how much got through the pier, to be honest with you, but it just shows you kind of like unnecessary fails by the United States of America and putting our military in a difficult situation. If you remember when they started talking about building this pier, many in Gaza had questions about what the U.S. military was really up to and should they even trust the pier. Well, the question was they shouldn't trust the pier as a place to be able to get aid because it didn't work. We knew it wouldn't work. The military who had the plans knew it wasn't the right kind of structure for that situation, and yet they continued to build it. This is, again, a $250 million cost to the American taxpayer. And Logan, we can't point to a single person or single child that got food because of this $250 million.
And when it's all said and done, that was $250 million. They believe another $100 million has now gone into it for even the repairs and to fix it, to keep it up. So we're talking now even a number that's looking towards $350 million. And yeah, according to this article from Town Hall, they said that they did not believe, the Pentagon did not believe any, that was the words, any of the 569 metric tons worth of aid delivered to Gaza in the early days had made it into the hands of residents whom it intended. So they don't believe anything happened. It was just a waste of over $250 million. And you had it attacked. You had storms break this thing up. We could go to flashback bites upon flashback bites of us talking about this, how early on we said it's going to get attacked and it's never going to work. And guess what? Here they are. It operated for just 10 successful days.
This just seems like a gigantic waste of U.S. resources that did nothing to help, average Gazans, kids, women who may be pregnant, who may need some of this food aid. They didn't get it. Yeah, and so far, we don't think any of it got delivered.
No, they don't believe all the press report. They don't believe anything actually made it to the people. What's interesting about this, for those who know, this pier was actually never planned to be anything permanent. In fact, they assumed that it would get so significantly damaged by September that it would become fully inoperable. However, they were able, obviously, to speed those up because why? You had a tax on it. Why? Because storms happened. Stuff really kept pushing this thing sooner and sooner. Again, only lasted about 10 days. But the fact that we were even going to spend $250 million, $350 million on something that was just a very quick Band-Aid.
There was no chance this was actually going to get to the people of Gaza that so desperately needed the food at the time. This was just a show, and it has failed. It's cost the American taxpayers $500 million and is a deep embarrassment to the United States and did nothing. It didn't even accomplish the basic mission it was set out to achieve.
There were so many red flags that you and I spoke about when they first talked about their plan to put this temporary humanitarian pier in place. It just seemed like such a fantastical idea that in the real world would not only fail, but as you said, would put my brothers and sisters in uniform at risk. What hasn't been reported much in kind of the mainstream news is there are a lot of social media accounts that report on the conversations and the text messages that soldiers who were working on that pier shared and what horrible conditions they were working in. And frankly, from their standpoint, literally the quote unquote boots on the ground standpoint, what a failure of an idea it was from conception through execution. And this is unfortunately exactly what we've seen carried out. To say it's a failure of leadership puts it lightly. It is once again another example of how the Biden-Harris administration are using our taxpayer dollars to try to gain more votes. This was ultimately a political stunt. It did not have anywhere near the effect that they claimed it would have. And who pays the price in the end? It is my brothers and sisters in uniform who are put into harm's way.
We predicted this very early on, that this was going to be a failure. And of course, you never want to be the person, and in some of these situations, maybe you want to be wrong. You want to be proven wrong, that, you know what, we can build something like this. The infrastructure can happen. We can throw up this pier. It will work. But instead, it just seems like time and time again.
It's the Mediterranean. It's the ocean.
Right.
It's also in an unfriendly territory. I mean, you were trying to build this around Hamas actors who would love to steal this aid and get it only to those, like a present to those who are supporting their terror attacks and their conflict and their war against Israel and, of course, the keeping of hostages.
This pier was purely a political decision because I think they're not, look, they may be dumb, but I don't think they're dumb enough to know that this was going to fail because we all said it. Even people on the other side said, this is not going to work. You're not going to be able to build a pier into Hamas, into the Palestinian territories, because they were like, look, we're not going to have any. Remember, that was when they were saying, we're not going to have any American troops on the ground, so we're just going to have them, right off the coast. And that's how we're going to get humanitarian aid. And everyone said, this is not going to work. And it didn't work. Clearly, their people involved also said this isn't going to work, but they did say this could be good PR.
I don't think he gets any political points from the left on this one. It was a total failure, like we said it would be, Secretary Pompeo, and you were right. And the experts were right that this kind of structure was not made to be used in the ocean. It wasn't going to last long, and that we had to trust that Hamas was going to let this get to the people. And, of course, for the few days that it did operate, they didn't.
Crazy. We're doomed from the outset, clearly just to tell a story. And, this is an example. Remember, they came out and told us that the Afghanistan pullout was a success. They came out and told us that the Hunter Biden laptop was likely Russian disinformation. These are knowing falsehoods that we're told to the American people on important national security matters. This isn't about politics. This isn't left or right. This is about how is it we protect the things that matter most to Americans and their families each and every day. And the Biden administration continues to tell us lies and wolf tales and decimates the capacity for America to build friends in places we need to and deter our adversaries where we must.
As of late May, reports were coming out that no humanitarian aid actually made it to anyone who needed it. Instead, it was a political promise made for political gain. We knew when this was announced that this could not work, that it would get attacked by terrorists. It did. That the seas would damage it. It did. They said hopefully it would last till September. Here we are midway through June, and it is going to be dismantled again after 10 successful days of operation. But $350 million of your taxpayer money just, flushed down the toilet, essentially. How does that make you feel? How does it make you feel that was obviously supposed to be humanitarian aid to go to people in need during a war of which it somewhat is a backhanded way to not support Israel, as we know that they have continually withheld weapons or withheld ammunition to Israel. President Biden has threatened saying, a lot's going to happen. A lot's going to happen. They know that if they go any further. How does that make you feel?